Right then, this is a response to the Once Forgiven Christian channel, which has posed the question of intelligent design. Can atheists answer the question of intelligent design towards the human brain? He's saying that for an atheist, it must be hard for us to make an explanation of how the human brain could possibly have just evolved. How could it have appeared from incremental changes rather than God? God is such a complex thing. We admit that the human brain is one of the most complex systems ever found in the universe. So how could it possibly have come from evolution? So he says, firstly, to not just simply go, no, it wasn't God, that's it. But he raises a few different questions. And one of the first things that came to mind when he said intelligent design, if it was created by intelligent design, the intelligent designer wasn't terribly intelligent. There are so many problems with the human brain which can be easily explained through malfunction, through bad wiring, and evolutionary hang-ups left over from previous generations. Why is it that people suffer from schizophrenia if God is such a brilliant... I'd say that's a bad electrician when people have schizophrenia, or phobias. Phobias can easily be explained evolutionary from it's a useful evolutionary trait to keep you alive from dangerous animals, dangerous situations, fear of heights. Very useful, don't want to fall off a cliff. However, chronic phobia of buttons, not so useful. Then people say, oh, that can't have evolved. Yes, it wouldn't have evolved, it's not useful. It's actually just bad wiring. Something has gone wrong in the brain and it's overreacted and caused people to have their brain not work properly, and they've overreacted to this. Have you noticed how no one has a phobia of guns? Not really that often, really. I've never heard of anyone who has a phobia of guns because it's not something that exists in nature for them to be afraid of. However, sometimes things like that happen because it's an overreaction of the evolutionary process. The brain just doesn't work properly. Why is it that my little sister has a phobia of people? And this comes on to the second question, is do you trust your own thoughts? No, I don't. Because there's so many different layers of thought going on in the human brain, and you're not aware of them all. You're not in complete control of them. So, going back to my sister, who in the past was afraid of people. She didn't go to school for many years because she just had an irrational phobia of being in the company of people that she didn't know, or even her friends. She just was terrified by it. Now, firstly, why would an intelligent designer wire a person's brain to do that? But secondly, can she trust her own thoughts? No, because she knows that is irrational. She is fully aware that this is a stupid thing that she has in her head. When she went to a therapist and they said, oh, what we're going to do is teach you that your thoughts are irrational. Yeah, I already know that. Oh, okay, you can go home then. The things aren't compatible. The human brain, cause and effect of your behaviour, everything that's happened in your life has caused your decision making. In psychology, my psychology class, this brought up the problem saying, well, can you punish people for doing things that are wrong? Well, and so can you put someone who's committed a crime in prison if they're not entirely in control of their own actions? Yes, that creates some moral issues, but that's where you have to come with the duality of saying, yes, it's not under their control on the simplest factor, but when you get down to it, they did do something wrong. And you need to remove them from society to do this. It becomes slightly tricky, and sometimes when I explain this way of thinking, that you're not in control of your thoughts and feelings, it's just things that have happened. A lot of them are evolutionary, explained by evolutionary process. Like love, for example, there are areas of the brain which light up when people are in love. You can brain scan someone and tell they're in love. People don't really like this, so you have to keep the two separate in your mind, because sometimes people, they get upset by not thinking they're not in control. And so does this raise red flags for your belief? The idea of the intelligent design for the brain. It's just so badly done. How many times have you bitten your own tongue? If you're made in the image of God, why have you bitten your tongue? Why have you accidentally bitten a fork? The amount of times you've stubbed your toe just because you've got bad coordination. Why is it that personally I get nosebleeds every day? I'm badly designed. I got glasses. Not intelligent design really, giving something short-sighted. However, I don't think that there used to be as many short-sighted people when we were being hunted by Smilodon or something like that. It's things that have evolved and things that aren't useful. We're badly designed. Without evolution, we're kind of defective, such as myself. This doesn't, because some people will inevitably say, "Oh, but this condones killing people." It's like, no, that's just immoral. Don't be silly. It doesn't condone killing people with disabilities. You don't actually. It's a science. You don't have to base your morals on it. Your morals are based on your own empathy, which come from you, which can be explained by evolutionary theory, but you still feel them, and you still know it hurts if you hurt someone, and you feel pain yourself. You don't want to inflict pain on other people. Simple empathy. You don't need any religion to cause it. If anything, religion, it has written down most of the morals that people come up naturally, because those people did come up with those morals naturally. They just happened to write it in the Bible or in their holy book of choice. I'm trying to think what other. You can also see that when you go from, as I said, a lot of our processes are left over from prehistoric, well, not prehistoric necessarily, but ancient levels of human evolution and ancient levels of animal evolution. The lizard brain is much smaller than ours and much simpler, but most of the mechanics of that can still be found at the back of the brain. Because with the very simple organisms, I can't remember the name of the creature off the top of my head, but the one that first developed a central nervous system, a spinal column, as it were. This is prior to bones. It would have been more cartilage, etc. But over time, as sensory organs ended up at the top, it was more useful to have more complex things at the front, and slowly it's developed. And it's grown off the top of the spine. It was just a nerve cluster that's got bigger and bigger and bigger and more complex. When you look at, say, a lizard, you can see that there's certain areas of the brain which are exactly the same in us. And as we have evolved and got more intelligent, that area of the brain has moved forwards and built on and built on and built on. And it's kept on moving. That is why, for example, the area of the brain that controls the eyes are at the back. For example, the human eye, this is always one that's brought up. It's created by an intelligent designer. Badly designed. The rod and cone cells which control the human eye face backwards. That's not useful. If you go to a squid, much better. But it's just built on the failures and changed it. For example, again, going back to nerves, the area of the brain controls the vocal cords, of course, as it controls the rest of the body. However, the nerve that controls those vocal cords has to go down via an artery, which at one point when we were in fish, there was a perfectly normal movement going towards the gills, etc. But now as we have lengthened, and it was wrapped around that artery, it couldn't go anywhere. It was easier just to grow it longer. So for example, in a giraffe, it goes a very long way back and up again, for what really should be a very short distance. It's just badly designed generally. We are complete screw-ups, but we're doing the best we can from thousands and thousands and thousands and millions of tiny incremental tiny adjustments. For example, one of the best examples of this at the moment is lactose intolerance. Beforehand, before we developed farming and culture, everyone would have been lactose intolerant, everyone. But as we have developed farming and eventually started getting milk from animals such as cows and goats and sheep, etc., those people who could, as a slight mutation, were able to maintain the enzymes in their stomach, which are normally only present in infants, were able to drink milk and therefore had a slightly increased chance of survival. In areas of the world where they don't have farming, they don't have, not farming, but they don't have culture of drinking milk and having cheese, etc., almost everyone is lactose intolerant because that's still the old natural way of living. In, say, Ireland, for example, there are almost no lactose intolerance, or at least a very low percentage in natural-born Irish people. This is a very readily available, relatively recent example of variation within the human species that's developed evolution. It's not the brain. I know I've slightly diverged from that. I do apologise. But I'm just trying to demonstrate how it's not, if it was a designer, it wasn't a terribly intelligent one. Okay, I'm probably going to have to leave it there, because otherwise this video is going to run on for absolutely ages. So I already nearly used up all my time. I hopefully might make another video if I have enough time to respond to the Once Forgiven Free. I apologise for the poor quality and the running on. I didn't have the technology to edit any of this, and I hope that people can give me some good responses. Thank you very much. I apologise if I've missed anything, and I'm more than happy to change my opinion if someone has some facts that I have missed or I simply didn't know. I'm always happy to learn. Thank you. I'm Jacob, and goodbye.